Good day. We are here to look at how to create a scriptable object dialog system. It's a more advanced system than some of my earlier tutorials, and it's also going to include some text animation, and it's going to contain a system for conditional dialogue so that a character can change what dialogue they use depending on different conditions. Okay, so let's look at the layout of my project. First things first is I've got a couple packages installed. Right now, V folders and V hierarchy, those are not needed for this to run. Text Mesh Pro, of course, we need that. Text Animator. There are two versions of this plugin on the Asset Store. This is the cheaper version, which is $19. I find it's a lot easier to code and to use. And then Odin is another plugin which is for customizing my inspector. There's another plugin called V-Inspector, which is a great plugin. Unfortunately, when you're doing a list with custom classes, that's where it breaks. So I have to use Odin instead of V-Inspector. Okay, the Text Animator does have some peculiarities. I've emailed the programmer about them, but never heard back. And one of them is from the get-go, you've got this thing called the animation list. So if I open that up, I can see all the different styles of animations that they have for your text. I'm only going to be using the wave, shake, and what's the other one? Bounce. I think those, yeah. So wave, shake, and bounce are the three that I'm going to be using. And this file, they're telling me, we can see here, please place the animation list in a resources folder. So very simply, I'm just going to go in here, create folder, resources. I can drop that in there. Okay, so that's the first step. If I clear that out, they'll get rid of that. The next one is this little message, which is just a warning. It doesn't really need to be changed, but it is annoying to see all the time. And I found just changing a name, because I went and looked it up, it really doesn't affect anything. That's why it's just a warning and not an error. And it's just on the naming of our, I really don't know. All the research I did, I couldn't figure out. But this name here, animation, I'm just going to do Control R twice and just rename that. And once I do that, that error goes away and we don't get that error anymore. Save and close. So that's two peculiarities with the text animator. The other thing is there are two bugs in it. One of them is easily fixable, and I'm going to fix that right now. And it has to do with when you have an object like a Text Mesh Pro, and that has on the text animator and the text typewriter. If you have that on there and you delete that object, even if you change scenes and that object's deleted, it's going to throw an error because of this text animator manager. So if we go into the manager, there's a very quick fix on this. And it's here in the animation processing. If I go down, we see this part here where it's going to take the text mesh, which is getting the Text Mesh Pro mesh, and it's going to force an update on that mesh. If I've deleted that mesh, then that's where we get the error. So this is a for each loop. All I'm going to do is I'm going to say if text mesh is equal to null. So if it doesn't exist, just continue. So that's a very simple fix for that one. The other bug, this was reported by a friend of mine, and apparently, if your computer is set up with um, your location, your region set to French, which is going to mess with the commas and the full stops, then the regex, which is in here somewhere, I can't remember where exactly, but that is going to throw errors and the game won't work. I don't know much about that. If anyone has ever seen a fix for that, please let me know in the comments. But I can't fix that one. I'm not in a French region, so it doesn't affect me. It will affect everyone else. Okay, so let's recompile here. That should go away. I did put it in resources folder. There it is. Okay. Further on my setups, I've also pre-set up a save manager. Because of the conditions that we're going to be having, I want to create some sort of conditions. I'm going to have people that you may have met, and I'm going to have gold that you can collect. And that way the conditions can ask something like, do you have enough gold? Or have you met a person before? So if you walk up to an NPC for the first time, their dialogue might be different than if you walk up to them a second time. Or they might say that you need to go find someone, and until you go find that person, their dialogue's not going to change. So it's a very simple system. I've just got a list of people. So here's the enum of people. I've got two methods here. One is where I can add people to my list, and one is to find out if I actually know somebody in that list. All right. And then same with the gold. Receive gold, it adds to the list, and then check the amount of gold in my list. So very simple. Let's go back to Unity. In the inspector, sorry, in the hierarchy, what I've got is I've got an NPC which is going to basically just trigger the dialogue. I'll leave that to you as how you want that to happen. This is just going to contain a script that's just going to run the dialogue. I've got the canvas which is going to hold my dialogue. Once again, that's up to you. You might want a balloon above someone's head. You might want a bar on the bottom. I'm not sure what you want, but that's up to you. This is just very simplistic. So it's just an object that holds the canvas, and the canvas just has a dialogue text on it, which I'm going to place at the bottom. And raise that up a bit. Okay, nothing fancy. And then you've got your standard event system, and you've got your text animation manager. This is going to be added because once you have the text animator and the typewriter scripts added, then it's going to auto create the text animation manager. Okay, I also have, I've pre-created the clips that I want. So I have a dialogue scriptable object. This is where we're going to create, let's say you go and talk to a guy named Bob, and this is where you create that dialogue. Sorry, this is where I would right click, go to create, and find whatever I need, which is usually at the top. And I've been using Unity 6 recently, puts my scriptable objects at the bottom. In Unity 2022, which I'm doing for this tutorial, it'll put it at the top. So the scriptable objects that will be at the top, you'll find your dialogue there. In the dialogue, it's going to be each and every single sentence that, well, not each sentence, but each thing that the person's going to say, and I'm going to call that a dialogue branch. So our dialogue is just basically a way of showing branches. So this is going to be extremely simple, this one. And this one is just a list. Oh, and it's a scriptable object. So all right, and this is a public list of, and so like I said, we've got our branches. So dialog branch, and let's call it branches. And basically that's all that is. So I can actually just close that for now. And let's just add one just to see what it looks like. So there we go, a list of branches. The list is going to look weird because Odin actually changes how the list works. That's the reason why I can't use vinspector. It has something to do with the format of Unity's list that messes with vinspector. So Odin got around it by coding their own list. So if I did this, there I've got my branch and it's looking for a dialog branch or something. Okay, so what does the dialog branch look like? Code dialog branch. Okay, this one is going to be the more complex one. And for this is where we're going to need Odin. So I'm just going to add in Odin. But I'm going to actually code it without Odin first. And then I'll add in all the Odin stuff that makes it look nice. Okay, so we're going to have a branch is going to have when I'm doing my games, I normally like to have a name, so it would say who's actually talking. I can do that because I've got a list of names there, and I'm going to say this is a public the name, what did I call it? I call it people, and let's just call it chatter. And that person is going to need, actually, get rid of 3 to 10. And let's use public string dialog. Let's just make sure that's string empty. Okay, so it's extremely basic. We've got a person talking, and we've got this dialog string empty. Where did I put it? Conversations. I'm going to rename this folder to in-game. I'm just going to drop it up here so I don't have to keep looking. Okay, so when I add this, Why is it doing that? Oh, right. It's not a mono behavior. This is system serializable. Much better. Now that should redo it. And there we go. So we have a branch where I can just say, I want Mark to say something, hello world. And I could just keep adding more and more branches. So Mark might say that, and Sue might say, oh, be quiet, Mark. Okay, so we've got the beginnings of a very simple dialogue system. Mine is going to be more complex because I want to have text effects on it, and those text effects are going to be, as I said before, text animator. Where is it? No. Resources. Right. I want wave, shake, and bouncing. So those three things I'm going to have to create here, and I'm going to want it as a drop-down list. So public enum there we go. Okay, so I'm going to be able to choose what type of effect I want, and I'm also going to be able to tell it where to put that effect. Normally in the effect what you would do is you would say, let's say I wanted shake. I would do this, shake, and close shake. That would apply the shake effect to only the word hello. So you go in and you manually add these things in. I want my system to be able to do it behind the scenes. I don't want to have to keep typing those things. So in order to do that, I'm going to need some sort of effects thing. But the good thing is I can actually add multiple effects. So I want a list of effects. So somewhere in here, I'm going to be saying I want a public list of, and some sort of effect here. So let's create that effect area. This is going to be another system.serializable. I hate when it does that. Public, thank you. Let's just call it effect. And now I can put that in here. Okay. Okay, so this effect, it's going to have a couple of things. One, I want to be able to change my color. I'm going to use the different effects types and set the start and end range. So I'm going to use a public color, and let's call this the effect color. And I find if I just say black or white or whatever, then it always messes with the alpha and sets the alpha to 0. So I usually have to do it this way. Public just call it effect and set the default to none. Okay, I'm gonna need Okay, that lets me set my lower, my lower side and my upper side on. So 0 would be the first word. So if it's 0 to 0, I only get the first word. 0 to 1, I get the first and second word, so on and so forth. Okay, this is very basic now. Let's go and take a look at this. So here I've got my thing, and I want to say I want to add an effect. I want it to be a wave, and from the first word to the last word, which is this. But if I went and did this, I'm going to get an error because there are not 6 words in here, or 7 words. There are no 7 words in here. This is where I'm going to get a little bit smarter and use the Odin features to kind of give me control over the length of that word. So now this is going to get a lot more complex. First things first is I need to know how much text has been put into this thing called dialogue. I need to send that into here. Odin's going to give us a couple of features which are good, which I'm going to say that when I change this, then I'm going to run a piece of code. And that is on value changed So that's the effect text that's being shown, and that's going to pass into our effect. And for that, I need to create a method down here. So let's just do a void. All right. And found a little bug in Odin that if I well, it's not a bug, it makes sense. If I shut down the project and reopen the project, whatever was sent into here is no longer there. So if I do oops, no, it's init. Inspector init. So when the inspector initializes, it'll run the same code. So either way, if I make a change or I first open, then it'll run this. Okay, this has to find a way to send the effect or the range into the effect. So the effect's going to need a couple of things in there as well. But first things first is let's find how many words we actually have that we're going to be sending in. So I need a string, and I'm going to call it dialogue words. And this is just going to be a split, and we're going to be splitting using a space. All right. If the length is 0, then we're not going to need to send anything in. We're just going to return. I'm going to go through my list of effects. Why is that not showing up? Effect. Oh, effect. Right. Okay, so if I have 4 effects on the same dialogue, I need to send, if I make a change to that dialogue, I need to send this to every effect. And in here, let's create So we're changing the range, which is this guy here, and our, let's just say, set range. And now I can go and say on that effect dot set range. Oh, I need to send in two things. I need an int, because that's the maximum, I believe, is what I need to send in, and my maximum range. So if it's 0 to 50, I can't go and type 100. And I'm also going to send the dialog in as well, the new dialog, and that would be a string. Let's call it new dialog. Okay, so set ranges, and I'm going to send in the dialog words dot, and for this I want like the second to last. So if there's 200 words, then it's 0 to 199. So I need the length -1, and I'm also going to send in the dialog. Okay. Save. So up here, I'm going to need to store these somewhere. This is some more of the using of the Odin plugin, and this range, I can go and type whatever I want, but I don't want to be able to do that. So I'm going to say that this is a min-max slider, and I'm going to get the range from something that's over here that's going to be private, and I'm just going to put this as a vector2 int, and this is going to be shiftable, so we'll call it the dynamic range, and let's just call it new vector2 int 0, 0. Okay, so I'm going to get my max min slider from the dynamic range. Dynamic range. And I want to show the fields, so that's where is that? Here we go, show fields, and that basically is just to show the number of fields, so the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so I've got that on there, and that will, so that's getting it from here, so that should be a small d. Set range, that would be and dynamic range equals new. Okay, so my possible range that I can select is from 0 to the max. This also says that if I try to go over the max, then it's going to reset it. I also want to have that dialog stored, so that's going to be a string store dialog, and let's just say that store dialog is equal to the new dialog. There we go. All right, because what I want is when I select, I want to be able to see what I'm actually selecting. So for that, I'm going to have a string here, and this is going to be, let's call it the effect text. This is going to display the text that is going to be affected. I don't want to be able to type in that, so oops. I'm going to say read only, and that way you can't affect this guy here. Now, when I go to change this range, I want this to be affected. So we had this thing of on value change before, and I'm going to use that again. On value changed, and let's call this show the range text. That means I need void and show range text is what I called it. Okay, so whatever that range is, I'm going to display that inside of here. Show range text is going to take the dialog. That's why I sent the dialog in. Go away. That's why I sent the dialog in. So I'm going to have to take that, and I'm going to say, once again, let's break this into pieces. String I'm going to call this dialog words, like I did before. It's equal to, you know what? I'm splitting this up, but I remember in PHP I used to be able to grab a range of words. Just do a quick search, because what I was going to do is I was actually going to do a for loop starting at the effect range X ending at effect range Y. But C# string, and I want to get a range. I used to do this in PHP years ago, like maybe 2 decades ago, and I don't remember. String range of words, string. I'm sure the word isn't range, it is substring. So I want to find C# substring. How do I do substring? Substring method. Okay, Microsoft. What's the syntax? Okay, I've got a start index. I need an end index though. Examples. Substring 0, position. Length. Okay, so I can actually do a substring rather than doing a for loop. That would mean that let's say effect text is equal to string. Do I do string dot substring? No. New How do I use it? Where? Public string, substring. No. String, substring equals val. Oh, okay. So I would have to get the store dialog dot substring. The start is going to be my effect range dot x, and the length is, I'm guessing, effect range y minus x. So if I'm at 0, 0 minus 0 is 0. If I'm at 1, 1 minus 0 is 1. So the length, yeah, that should work. Okay. That's a lot shorter than how I used to do it before. So it's a good thing I thought of doing that. And I only want to do this as long as if store dialog dot length is equals 0, then return. Just don't want any bugs to show up. Okay, so that's going to run whenever I change that. And this is when I change the text. Now, let's say I've already got the text and I add a new, I'm going to add a new effect. That means that I need to take all the show effect stuff and add that into the new effect. So let's do void new effect. So this is if I change. So let's call it add remove effect. Effects dot count is equal to 0. Return. So if I've deleted all my effects, I don't want to do anything. If the dialog I should just be able to do this, right? Dialog, hey, length is equal to 0, return. So if I don't have any dialog, I don't want to do anything either. And let's do that string split again. Dialog words equals dialog dot split, yes. And we're going to apply that to, if I've created a new one, then I'm going to apply it to whatever the new one is, which is going to be the text effect, or sorry, effects dot count minus 1 to grab the last one, dot set range, and we're going to pass in the same thing we did before, dialog words dot length minus 1, and we're also going to send in the dialog itself, same as last time. Okay, so that is going to be adding and removing. So up here where we have our effects list, if I make a change to that, which is same as before, on value changed, then that will run the add remove effect. Let's make sure I get it spelled correctly. Good. Save. Now we can go and take a look at how it actually works. Get rid of that. And so hello world, and I've got this. I can say I want to print whatever my effect is in red. I'm going to put a wave, and I want it on hello. So right now I can see 0 to 0. That's because I haven't done anything. So if I did that, okay, my effect range is not showing up. That's doing it. Oh. Because substring is doing it by character. Can I do a substring based on a certain, so C# substring with a split using space? Let's see what that comes up with. Come on, Stack Overflow, work for me. White space. Split. No, I want a substring. Oh. I was trying to be smart before. Substring using space, not char. I thought I was smart before using the substring instead of the longer method, but I don't know. Yeah. See, everything I'm finding points to me having to do a for loop. Okay, nothing to it. Let's just go and make a change here. So this I thought was going to look nice and simple no longer looks nice and simple. Alright, so I'll need a string, which is I'm going to call dialog range, and that's just going to be empty. So string.empty. Bye bye. And string dialog words equals, and this is our split. So it's the stored dialog dot split, and then for int I, the start is going to be the effect range dot x. That's the start point. I want to go until I is less than or equal to the effect range dot y and I plus plus. And what's going on here? Because that's not a comma, that's supposed to be a semicolon. Right. I've had a question before on why my colors look weird in my code. I'm using an add-on called Rainbow Brackets, and it really makes it a lot easier to see my brackets. Okay, so this is going to be dialog range. Just go to dialog range plus dialog words I. Then at the end of this, we just effect text is dialog range. There. Okay, so hello world. If I make a change to that, that did not change in here. This is still not working. It's where did I go wrong? Dialog branch. Show effect text is here. And that is to do. What if I just start this over again? Let's do that. And wave. That still is not doing anything. Wait, why is that now saying hello? Obviously something's not working there. Obviously. Dialog words. We take the dialog. Where is it? Dialog. Split it. The length is not equal to 0. Is equal to 0. Return. For that effect, set the range. Send that in, send that in. Okay, that's supposed to happen when there's a change to this. Okay, so set the range. If the effect range dot y is greater than what I'm sending in, then the effect range is set to 0. The dynamic range is a new vector 2 of 0 to the max. And the store dialog is that. So that seems right. Min max slider is going to be dynamic range. And that's true. Show range text. Okay, I'm going to figure this one out and I'll get right back to you. Okay, I think I figured this out. So we, I can change this back. That wasn't the problem. Okay, one little addition is the dialog range is a dialog range plus the words, and I've added this in, just a space between the words. Okay, this is where I am going to go and say that this is where it's happening, is in the setting the range. So when I go and set that range, nothing happened that I could see in the dialog box. So if I go back here and I show it again, so how are, and I remove the word are. So that did not update. I have to go and play with this to get this to update. So there's 0, 1, 2. 0 to 2 is my range, and that's the full thing. If I remove how, then that sets that to 0, 0, which, as we saw here, if the effect range of y is larger than the max, then the effect range is going to be 0. But I'm going to make a little change to this. All I'm going to say is I wanted the full thing, 0 to 5. And now it's 0 to 4. I just want to bring the range down. So I'm going to say new vector2 int. I'm going to get the original x, vector2 range.x, and I'm going to add max to the y. All right, so that does one thing. That extends the y. So for instance, right now I should have 0 to 2, or 0 to 1 for hi there. There it is. And if I add another word, how are you, then here we see that didn't change, but if I pull this all the way up, I've got that. Now this is where it's going to change. If I take off you, then that dropped that down to 3. This is just an error stopping thing, so I don't get something that's out of range. Okay, but I remove you and this hasn't changed until I go and change this. That is because when I change the range, I then do this, show range text. Well, that's this here. When I change the text, this is run. But this never updates because I never called on it. So show range text, go right ahead. And now when I go and do this, I see that is updating. Okay, so this is now telling me that so 0 to 2 is what that's saying there. If I wanted, and notice I just put a space in, it's now saying there's 0 to 3. All right, this is working nicely. I might not want to see, because I'm going to add some other stuff in here as well. I might not want to see this. So let's check and see what my recording time is so far. I've been going almost an hour. Okay. I might not want to see this, so I'm going to add something in here, which is going to be, I'm going to say that a little toggle to you. There's so many different ways you can do it in Odin. You can do a fold out list if you want. I'm just going to do a bool, and I'm going to put that in right after the dialog, and I'm going to say public bool show effects, and I'm going to say false as the default. So now on the effect, I'm going to add sort of a group kind of thing. It's going to be called box group. I need to give the group a name. So let's call these extras. And actually, no, it's not effects, because it's not just the effects I'm going to have. It's show extras. Box group extras. What else do I need to add? I don't want a label to be shown. So extras show label equals false. And this box group is going to be visible if show extras equals true. I don't know if I could just do show extras or if I have to do the show extras equals true, but I kind of saw that in somewhere online, so I went with it. And that's going to hide this and whatever else, because I'm going to be adding something else to my dialog branches. But only if this is true will it show that, which means that I can now have sort of a tidier dialog system. And where'd it go? And that is label false, visible if, show extras, small s. That should do it. And there we go. Okay, I hate this thing where that's coming from my, it's coming from there. See, it goes away when I close that. I don't know why that pops up. Okay. So we've got most of our dialog branch done. I'm going to come back to this later. The other thing is when I need to get the dialog, I've got those effects on them. And I need to know which, like, where to add those effects in. So I'm going to say that this is going to return, oops, what am I doing? Okay, so at some point I'm going to need to return out the string. Get dialog. Or get dialog. Okay, so if there are no effects, then if the effects dot count equals 0, then there's no modification to the dialog because count. Thank you. Right, so there's no effects, so the dialog's just going to go back out the same way it is. So for now, my return dialog is that, and somewhere down here, I'm going to return the return dialog. Okay. First thing we're going to add is our colors. And I'm going to go through each of my effects, and I'm going to add the colors, and then I'm going to add the specific effect. Oh, right. Because I've got none, so it's not going to do anything if there's none. But also, if there's none, then in here, so I've got an effect on here, and if I set this to none, then there's no actual effect. It's just a color effect, which means I don't need to see any of this stuff here. And this is just using Odin to make things nice and neat. So we can do again. It's on the this. It's on the this. It's on that, which is going to be a box group. So once again, box group, and I'll call this group the effect. And I'm going to show label is false, and visible if the effect is not equal to effect type dot none. So if it's none, then it's not going to show this stuff. It's only visible if it's not none. And that's going to apply that to this, but I also want to hide this as well. So the good thing is the box group is a group. And I'm going to say that this is called effect. And he's going to follow along with the main part of the group. Okay. That should make that nice and neat. So effect none. That should hide. There we go. So if I say wave, or any of these, but none hides it. All right, back to our code. So I'm going to go through each of the effects, which basically that's just a simple for each loop. And we can do that again. All right, for each of them, let's do first a string. And this is going to be a color hex equals color utility to HTML string RGBA and effect dot grab the color. So I'm converting that into a hex string. So I'm going to break it up into three parts. What comes before the effect, what comes with the effect, and what comes after the effect. So first I'm going to say that the start dialog is empty. String, oops, that's not your start dialog is empty. The effect dialog is empty, and string end dialog is empty. Okay, that looks good. And if the effect starts at the beginning, then obviously start dialog remains as empty. Yes. Split dialog equals I did set the return dialog to be dialog. I prefer using these in the split. The range.x is greater than 0. So if that effect range is on the x, so that's the beginning, the minimum. If it's at 0, then there's no start dialog. But if it's greater than 0, then there is a start dialog. And we can do that here. So if that is that, then for int I starting at 0, I is less than effect range dot x, that, then the start dialog is equal to, we put this on a new line, start dialog plus the split dialog I, and always remember to add a space. Okay. For that, did that. Can you close that? There we go. See, nice colored brackets. Okay, so all we're saying is that if it's greater than 0, then we start at 0 and we go up to the minimum. That's my start dialog. Next one is going to be the if effect dot effect range dot y is less than the split dialog dot length minus 1. This is now going to be setting up for the end dialog. int I equals effect range dot y plus 1. When I is less than split dialog dot length and I plus plus. Then end dialog is equal to end dialog plus split dialog I plus space. Perfect. So we've got a beginning and end. Now, of course, we need our middle, which is the actual effect. First, we start with the color. I'm going to make sure that it's not black. Black is the default color. I mean, you know what? It doesn't matter. Just because that depends on what your default color is. So I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm just going to say that the effect dialog is going to be equal to the effect dialog plus, and for this I need color. Right, is equal to, and the hex needs that plus the color hex plus that to close it. Alright, so I'm just going to add that. Next is going to be if effect dot effect is equal to effect type dot wave, then effect dialog is equal to the effect dialog will, oh, this has to come before color. So the effect dialog will be that and wave. Excuse me? Oh, wave. Alright, that's if it's wave. Wave, shake, wiggle. Shake and, oh right, not bouncing, I wanted wiggle. So what was the order again? Wave, shake, wiggle. Wave, shake, wiggle, shake, wiggle. Okay, so if it is wave, it's going to add wave. If it is shake, it's going to add shake. If it's wiggle, it'll add wiggle. If it's none, well, obviously it's not going to add anything, but it will add the color. That's to start the effects area. Then we're going to do the same thing that we did with everything else for the actual effects area, which is int I equals effect dot effect range dot x. I is less than effect dot effect range dot y plus 1 and I plus plus. dialog is going to be equal to the effect dialog plus split dialog I. Okay, so either we add one of these things, we will definitely add the color, and then here we're adding the actual text, and now we need to close things off. It'll be kind of the reverse order. First thing I need to do is the color, and then one of those other things. So the other things don't matter what order they're in, but the color does matter. So effect dialog is going to be slash color, close that. That's correct. And then depending on which of these, it's going to be and each of these is a closing. Okay, so I've set up the start dialog, I've set up the end dialog and the effect dialog. Now all I gotta do is just piece them together. Oh wait, hold on. On this, yeah, I did forget it. Split dialog. The space. Make sure I got the space on each of them. Yep. Okay, now I just got to piece them together. So the return dialog is going to be equal to okay, I set this up outside. So inside of the for each loop, the return dialog always starts with whatever was there before. So start dialog plus effect dialog plus the end dialog, and then return that. There we go. So on this branch, when I need the dialog, I'm going to say get dialog. That's if there's no effect on it, it just returns the dialog. If there are effects on it, then it's going to run through all of that. That will automatically add those things. This is doing all the work beforehand because once you start getting into the game, I don't want to have to keep going back and having to type wave, shape, wiggle, color. I don't want to do any of that. This is how it's going to look in my view, and this is a lot easier to use than me going here every time and saying, okay, I want wave, and I forget to close wave, which means wave goes to the end, but then I'm like, okay, wave, and then I forget something. So basically it could be a real pain to have to type those things in here. Oh, okay, so that updated this because I told it not to do something. I did tell it that if there were no words, just to return. Yeah, but I want to send words. I want to send that through. Does it give any errors? Sorry. I removed that. That should have updated, but maybe I did it up here as well. I did do it up here as well. Get rid of that. Don't give any errors. Perfect. Good. That is our dialog and the branch system. Okay, I'm going to do now the actual the window that's going to show all the dialogue, and that is this guy here. So with the canvas, and I've got it here as dialog display. Okay, so we've got our dialog branch, our scriptable object, and now this is going to grab that scriptable object and display each of the things. What I want in this is also going to be that the typewriter and the effects are all going to work in here. So that's going to be calling on this text with the typewriter and the animator. So let's get into this one here. Okay, what do we need to access? I need to access, I need to get the dialogue. So I'm just, it could be private. Well, it is private, but I'm going to show it here. And this is the dialogue SO. This is the entire dialogue, and let's call it the dialogue. I need access to the actual text. I have a name in my thing. I'm not going to do that in here though. So this is the actual Text Mesh Pro text, and I'm going to say the text box. Normally I would do the name box and have two Text Mesh Pros because we did set up our branch to have a name, but I don't care. I'm not doing that. That's a simple thing to figure out. So that's a challenge for you to do. Next thing I need, I'm going to have an int, and I'll call it the current branch. Set that to 0. Next, I need access to the typewriter. That comes from the animator, and this is just typewriter. Next, I want to have on enable and on disable. So the typewriter does send an event for when it finishes typing. So I'm going to add a listener, and let's just create down here void typewriter finished, and let's add that in there. Oy. Did I spell something weird? Why was that not? Anyhow, okay, so I've got my typewriter finished, and then typewriter dot on end remove from listeners. Okay, that's the deal with the typewriter. Now we're going to look at when this dialogue system starts, I'm going to want to, I'm not going to use the class start, sorry, the method start. I'm going to actually just do a setup, which is going to run everything. So something's going to access this and set up. And I want to pass in the dialog SO. Once I pass that in, this is a new start. So we reset the branch to 0. The dialog is set to that. And I'm going to store the dialog canvas. Okay, so I'm going to show the canvas. Now I need to have a slight 1 frame delay. So I need a delay between activating the canvas and then starting things up. You return no. So this will run the start routine. That's going to run the enumerator. Okay, at some point I'm going to have to destroy the dialog box, and if I'm displaying the dialog, obviously you're not allowed to do that. So I think I'm going to add another thing up here. I don't need to see this. Destroy dialog is false. So keep it as false. So nice, easy way. Starts a typewriter. Am I displaying the text? You'll see why I need this in a second. So display text is true. The text box dot text is going to be equal to the dialog dot, what do you call it, branches. And I'm going to grab the current branch, and then I'm going to get dialog, which is that long thing that we did, which adds the effects and everything. Get dialog. Okay, so that works good there. And once you've displayed that branch, then the current branch, we're going to set it up for the next one. Okay. Update. This is why we needed that display text in here and the destroy thing. So if I'm going to be destroying the dialog, if I'm destroying the dialog, I don't want to run any code, so just return. And did it add? Yes, it did add that. I don't need that. Next is if I click my mouse, input dot get mouse button up. Or I don't use the jump in. So this part here you can set. The get mouse button up is a usual one, but it's whatever you want to advance the dialogue. That's going to be this button here. So I can use the jump button and I can use that. So if I am, and this is where I have that display text. No, that was supposed to be if display text. So that means that the text is being displayed. I want to know that if the current branch is the dialog dot branch dot count. So if this, I've sent it, so I've added one extra. So if I'm at the end, that one extra puts me over the count. So if that is the case, then destroy dialog is true because I'm at the end. So don't do anything else. I'm going to need something to destroy the dialog, to end the dialog. So void, I'm going to put something down there, and I'm going to just invoke. I don't see many people using invoke that often. If someone can tell me why it is so horrible, then I just won't use it. Okay, so once I return out of here, the chat is done. This is going to end the chat. Because destroy dialog is on, nothing else is going to run, so no more mouse button clicks are going to happen. That just ends everything. So that is me stating that we're at the end. New, this, display text. Otherwise, if I clicked, and I am allowed to display the text, so if I can display text, then I'm going to, oh, wait. I am displaying the text, so display text means that I'm allowed to show new text. Let's change that name. Display new text. Because at this point, I'm already showing text. I can't display new text. If I click the button, text is already being written on the screen. So if I am to display new text, then it'll do all this. But if I'm not displaying new text, it means the text is already being written on the screen. That has to do with the typewriter. So that's where I'm going to say that, so start coroutine, and I'm going to return. Otherwise, if I click the mouse button, then the typewriter, right there, typewriter dot stop typewriter. And what that does is it basically shows everything. It stops the actual process of doing the typewriter, and it shows the entire text. So it skips the typewriter. So if it's being typed and it's typing too slowly, I can use that to skip the typewriter. And now once I've skipped the typewriter, then I should be able to display text equals true. So now if I click again, it'll go to the next text. And if the typewriter finishes, then display new text equals true. And once it starts to display the new text, it sets that back to false, meaning that a click is to skip typewriter, not to display new text. And on the end, I'm just going to hide this. First, let me just the text box dot text equals empty. Then, what would I call it? The canvas. Dialog canvas. Turn that off. Dot set active false. Okay, this is to display my dialog. We're going to do a quick run on this to show the dialog in action. First, I just need to link a couple things. So the canvas goes to the dialog canvas. The typewriter is on the text. The text box is on the text. The dialog is empty for now. Current branch is 0. Okay. This is the NPC to trigger the dialog. So I don't have that. Let's just do this. Create C# NPC. Start. Okay, so the dialogue, the NPC's got a dialogue on them, and we're going to change out later for a conditional dialogue system, but right now it's got a dialogue, and I'm just going to say that the display dot setup, and I'll pass in the dialogue. This is going to set my text to black. I need black text. Ah, right. That's why I was doing my checking if the text was black or not. Because otherwise the default on the effect is set to black. And what if the... That's where you should know what your default is. You put that programming in depending on your default. So let's say my default is white. Then I'm going to come in here and I want to set up in my effect that the default is white. And then down here I'm going to ask the question if there we go. So if it's not white, do something. Because that's something that's your choice. Deciding on what default colors you should use. Okay, so NPC, he's going to get NPC. And he's going to take the display, which is on here. The canvas should be hidden for now. So he's going to take that, and then the NPC is also going to take the dialogue. There it is. And let's go and just make that some more stuff. So hello. No effect. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna add two effects. First effect is let's do yellow, and I want it to be a wave, and I want that to be on the word effects. So let me do a range. This one will have some effects. No. Some. I don't care. That's the first one. Second one, let's do it in red. And we'll use shake. And I want that on the word wow. So here that little rangefinder is telling us what we can do. What words are going to be affected. And I don't need to show those. And then let's just do one last with just a color effect. I don't think I have one of those. So this is just the color. So yes, I will add an effect, and that effect will be purple, magenta. No effect. All right, so I have dialog. Fingers crossed, everything should work. And we get an error. What's the error? Oh, I think I was supposed to link something to something in the typewriter. Yep, there's blowing up a whole bunch of errors. Why? Was it renaming that thing? Where's the typewriter? Typewriter's in here. Script, typewriter. Was it because of this? Better not have been. Because it was. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a bad advice at the beginning. I'd never actually tried to fix that while using typewriter. Okay, what do we have here? Everything should be working. Animation. That needs to, I think, none. Ah, right. How does the typewriter animate? I want it classic. You can have it bouncing, whatever. So, hello, welcome to this tutorial. That's very slow. Let's up the speed. Let's try that again. So I can skip. So I one click skipped it. This click advances. So there I see my text. And so there's two effects on there. And then the last one is, this is just the color, which I set to 0. Oh, I should not add, I should have the range. Hold on, that's in here, in the branch, in the effect. This should only really be on here. I don't need that. Because the range, I do need the range for the color. Oh, wait. No, I don't need this at all. Because if I'm doing a range for the color, oops, if I'm doing a range for the color, then I need to see my range. See? Even that's none, I still need to know what range. All right. That shows that the dialogue system, so I just hide the extras, but this has effects on it. The next thing is I want to do the conditional system. That will be part 2. This video has gone, how long? Almost 2 hours. Do I want to do this as a part 2 or just one all long video? I'll do it one long video. So I'll put in chapters, and at this point we're going on to looking at making our conversation choosable by what sort of conditions there are. So if you want, this is a good place that you can stop. If you don't need the conditional stuff, you just need dialogue that is dependent, dialogue that just has effects on it, you can stop here. This is how this looks. The way this actually looks is because when you go into Odin and preferences, collections, so in here is where you set up the look of how this stuff looks. So you've got your colors when you're using dark skin and colors. So if you're in dark mode or light mode, then you just set that to be whatever your preference is. Once again, I've got that restore up, which comes from my stupid Visual Studio. Go away. All right. Reopen that. Okay, let's look into, oh no, not now. Let's look into what we would be doing if we had a condition. So I need my conditions to be as flexible as I can. I need to be able to add conditions and at any point, and I don't want to have to keep on going back and doing a whole lot of recoding on conditions. So I have two things here that I call my base stuff. One is the condition branch. So this condition branch is going to be, this condition base is going to be a scriptable object that I can create and drop it somewhere. So for instance, have you met someone? Do you have enough gold? Those are kind of conditions that I can create. So I'm going to go in here in my base, and this is going to be a scriptable object. However, remove this. However, this this base that is a scriptable object, I don't need to set up here the create asset thing, if that makes sense. Since this is going to be something that something inherits from. So I just need to find my code for that. And okay, so this is going to also be an abstract class I'm going to say public abstract bool So a condition can be reversed as well, just to make things easier. So if I've met someone is one thing, or if I've not met someone could be something else. So that is my base. Each of my condition types is going to inherit from this base. I then have a condition type. Oh, sorry. I have in here I have my base code, and then I have my condition types. So once this is created, I can now use this. I'm just going to get rid of it. I don't need to see it there. And I'm now going to say I want to get a condition about meeting someone. So condition type of meeting. Let's see. This is going to be a C# script. Let's call it condition met person. And I spelled that wrong. Yes. Okay, so here's my condition for met person. And like I said, it derives from the condition base. Once I do that, that's going to give an error because I need to implement that abstract class. Get rid of this. And obviously I need to know who did I meet. So public void, no, sorry, public per people person. Nice and simple. And this is inheriting from the scriptable object. So this is where I'm going to do the create asset menu now. File name equals, oops. File name equals new met person. Or what did I do with my last one? I put that into dialog. There we go. All right, so it's very simple. If I want to find out if the condition has been met, I'm going to go into that save manager that I created at the beginning. Here's my people, and I have no person. So I want to ask the question. I'm going to return save manager dot instance dot no person and the person. Excuse me. Okay, this is setting up that if I know that person, and it's not reversed. So if that was reversed, then this, okay, so if I know the person, that's true. If it's not reversed, meaning it's true, or reversed is false, meaning I don't want to reverse it. So I don't want to reverse it, and I have met the person. That's going to return true with both of these statements. Let me actually wrap them up like that. That should work. Now, if this comes out as false and this is true, I'll get a false because I don't know the person and I'm supposed to have met them. But if this is false, I don't know the person and I reverse the condition, meaning, oh, I want to know if you've not met the person. So this will return false, I don't know the person. And this says, if both of these are false, then I get false. Okay, let's use an if. I try to be fancy, but if save manager dot instance dot is it meet person or met person? No person. Sorry. No person. Person. So if that and not reversed, then I know this is supposed to be true, return true. Else if save manager, same thing, but and this time reversed, then this is also supposed to return true, otherwise return false. Okay. So I've set this code up once. I don't need to do that again. I now have a met person condition. And now I can have it for any person I want to work very easily. So for instance, let's go into the in-game and let's add a condition. Create conditions, met person. And this is if I've met Mary. I believe I have a Mary in that list. There she is. So that little scriptable object I now have set for met Mary. If anybody wants to know if I've met Mary, then they can use this one scriptable object. I don't have to add anything extra to their code. Everybody just uses that scriptable object. Of course, if I change that by accident to Mark, then everyone that's using it is going to mess up because they're going to be looking for Mark. But that's why I named it Met Mary. So everyone uses Met Mary. It better state Mary here. That is a condition. Now we need to find out how do we use these conditions. So what is the list of things that is going to show us all of the conditions? Main dialog condition types. Oh, right. So that's if I've met Mary. I don't know if I've met Mary before. How do I get to meet Mary? Well, we have inside of our save manager. Do I know a person? I've also got a way of adding a person to the list. So if I want to add that person to the list, then I will need some sort of event that's going to add them to the list. There's many different ways you can do that. And what if I want to give events during a conversation? So let's say someone's talking to you and they say, well, let's say you talk to Mary. As soon as Mary starts, you've met Mary. So the conversation should be able to trigger certain events. And I'm calling those branch events. So I've got a folder here called branch event types. It's going to be the same kind of premise as the condition base. So I've called this dialog branch event base. And we're going to do the same thing of doing a abstract class. It's also going to be a scriptable object. Good. And for this, I want public abstract void. So I don't know what kind of event's going to happen. I met someone gave me some gold, somebody triggered something, whatever. It's just an event that happened, and let's call this run branch event, just to make sure we know this is an event that happens during a branch. Once I have that, that is my base. I can now go and let's say I want to meet someone. So I have create, I'll call it branch event met person. So this is a type of event. This is going to derive from the base event. File name. Okay, great. Now implement it. Review. And public what do I want to put this as? Public person, people, person. Okay, so when I do run branch, basically I'll do whatever I need to do, which is the save manager dot instance dot meet person, and I'll pass in the person. No, not people. Person. Simple as that. Now I can have an event. I can create events for meeting people. So for instance, this, let me rename it to condition. I'm going to call this dialogue Mary. This is having the dialogue with Mary. Condition, have I met Mary? And I'm going to do, now I'm going to do dialogue branch event meet person, and this is branch event met Mary. And up here, Mary. Okay, that needs to be incorporated into the dialogue system. So if you broke off earlier, well, if you're still here, then we're adding to that dialog. So people before did not need this stuff in their dialog. So in their dialog branch, they would have had their effects. Where are they? Here we go. They have their effects, and they didn't need anything extra. So I'm going to now add in a public list, and this is going to be a list of is it the branch events are hold on, let me find that. It was the branch event. Base. Branch event base. Okay, and I'm going to call this events. No, events. Oh, it doesn't like, yeah, it wouldn't like that capitalized. Events. This also is going to be in this group of extras. So I can just close that off and remove all of that. There we go. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Let's go back to our dialogue with Mary. And show extras. And there's my effects and my events. In my events, here's my branch event met Mary. And I can add as many events as I want. I can meet her, get some gold, whatever. And you can do, so when this runs, when branch 0 runs, it's going to run that event. In order to do that, we need to go back to our display. And in our display text, this is where we're going to run our event. And that would be to simply go and say that the do I do this as a for each? Or do I do this in should I do it in this or should I do it in here? I'm going to do it in here. Let's just say public. I'll put this at the end. Run events. Run branch events. Branch events. For each. No. Okay, e dot run branch event. Okay. And then in here, for this branch in the display, after I set up that, I can then say that the dialog dot branches, get the current branch dot run branch events. Okay, let's test that out. Save system, save manager. Okay, my save manager, I don't have anyone under met people, and I don't have any gold. As soon as this runs, I've now met Mary, because that was one of the things that I had. So like I said, I want my conditional systems to be able to be that I can change them very easily. Let's go and say that I want an event type, and I'm going to call this a branch event and get gold. I can do get gold, I can do lose gold. I can have two different types of events that happen. So how does this work? It works the same way as this one. Let me just grab this. I'll make some alterations to it. I'll call it branch event. Get gold. Or let's just say alter gold. Because I can make this my own, then branch event base. And save manager dot instance dot receive gold and throw in alter gold, and that's all I have to do. This guy is ready to be used. Now, because of the way I worded it, I should be able to do this. Dialog, conditions, branch events, alter gold, branch event, Mary gives gold. And I'm also going to do this. Dialog, condition, no, branch event, alter gold. Okay, so Mary gives gold. She's going to give me 50 gold. Mary takes gold. She's going to take 25 of my gold. This is just to show things. Events. So when I meet Mary, welcome to this tutorial. Here is 50 gold to help you. And at event, Mary gives gold. Last one here, show extras, events, Mary takes gold. This is just a pretty color that costs 25 gold. Full amount. So I've got an event to give me gold and an event to take gold away, and we should see that happening in our save system. So let's hit play. Met people and gold should alter. So there I've got my 50 gold, Mary, and this is the events that happen in this first branch. So next is nothing's happening. Then the third branch, 75. I did something wrong, which I know what I did wrong. Takes the goal. I give it as 25 minus 25 because it's alter. So it's plus equals, and if I do a plus equals on a negative number, that's going to be a subtraction. So if I have this 50, 25. So I've gone back down to 25. So that's that. Being able to add different conditions and being able to add different events very fast. I just go in here. I want to create a new type. So I can have Mary give me gold. I can have Paul give me gold. This altering of gold, it's now a scriptable object, which I just put in a number and the event runs. This event of meeting a person, I can... Obviously, it's designed only to meet, not to... I mean, you can't get amnesia and unmeet someone. But if you want to code it that way, you can code it that way. But I can add different kind of conditions that become scriptable objects that I can say, I have a condition of, have I met Paul? Have I met Mary? Have I met... So whatever type of condition, I can create new conditions very fast. And it's all done in here. Once I've coded this, then I don't need to go back out to, I don't need to go to my code and change anything in my code. It's all done in here. The condition system. So the NPC has to display this, but I want to have it display something else if I've already met Mary. I have I did not create it. Create. Let's call it a condition. Dialog condition manager. Where did I put that? Main code. Condition manager. Okay. I'm going to first set up a dialog that is going to be a default dialog. Okay, the conditions are going to be a lot more complex. I need a list of conditions that have a list of conditions in them. So I can say to play dialogue A, I have to have met Bob. To play dialogue B, I have to have met Bob and have 20 gold. If none of those conditions are met, play the dialogue condition. So I'm going to create down here two parts for this public class a condition, and this is just going to be the condition public, what did I call it? Condition base. So the base condition, I'm just going to call this condition, and then I want to know, so public bool so this is to reverse the condition. So have I met Bob, or is the condition to say that I have not met Bob? So if I've not met Bob, and I reverse the condition of meeting Bob, then that will prove to be true. So I have that. That's my condition. Now I need a list of these conditions. So public class conditions. This is also going to be system serializable. Thank you. And this is going to be my list of conditions. And if that list of, if all of those conditions prove to be true, then the dialog SO that conditions dialog will run. And therefore, I have a default dialog, and now I've got a list of conditions. New list of conditions. Okay. Now, how do I know which one to run? We're going to go and grab one of those things. So public dialog public, oh, stupid me, inside the bracket. Get the correct dialog. I'm going to make this just simple of get, and okay. So let's loop through our for each. Let's loop through all of our conditions, and this will be conditions. Let's just say con in conditions. Why did I use a capital C? I'll use an X. Conditions. Okay, and once I'm going through that loop of conditions, I need to find out if any are going to be satisfied. I'm going to assume true, but as soon as I find any conditions not met, it's going to be false. Stop checking. So in each of these, I have multiple of these. So I need to do another for each loop. And I'm going to say this is a singular condition. And I'll just say C. In that condition, dot conditions. So for each of those, condition met C dot. Okay, so we're checking to see if the condition's met. I'm sending in the reversal from that condition. So here, reverse condition. And condition satisfied is going to be equal to that. If it's true, then that's good. Condition satisfied remains as true. If it's false, however, I'm going to break out of this because basically to play this dialogue, all of these conditions have to be met to play that dialogue. So if this is true, keep on going. As soon as it's false, break out of it. That condition has not been met. Let's go on to the next condition. So it's going to do that over and over again. When we get to the end of all the conditions, then if condition satisfied, then we've got all the conditions. All the conditions are met. Good. Let's run that dialogue. So I'm going to return the dialogue. But we get to the end. If they did not do that, if the default is not null, then return default dialog. Otherwise, return null. Just to check, this null, I don't know. I put that in my previous code, but I should check to in the displaying of the dialog. Oh no, on the NPC, right? So this is going to change out to be this. I'm going to add that to the NPC. So let's go and NPC dialog condition manager. Okay, so I'm going to send, so first, condition manager dot it should be this, get correct dialog. If the dialog is not null, then I'm going to do this. If it is null, then hey, there's nothing to send. Send dialog. Okay, and now I should be able to put this in here. So before I had a dialog put in there. Now this is controlling what dialog to use. And default, let's say the default is what Mary talks. But if I have met Mary, I'm going to run a different one. So let's do in-game dialog, and we'll call this dialog already met Mary. And Mary says, I have nothing more to say to you. Good. Go back to here. So here we have dialog, and we've got a condition, and my condition is going to be condition met Mary. I'm not going to reverse that condition. So if I have met Mary, I'm going to run dialog already met Mary. So if none of these conditions, there's only one. If that condition doesn't run, it's going to look for the default dialog. And if the default dialog is empty. So let's say there's someone that you walk up to, he's not going to talk to you. You have to meet conditions for him to talk to you. So I can leave this as empty. So I can go none. And therefore, If I haven't met any conditions, he doesn't talk to you. But the second I've met a condition, he'll talk to you with that condition. But in this case, he will talk to you, but this is an introduction. So Mary. So let's see how this goes. My save system, I haven't met Mary, so it's going to pump out the meeting. So here's the meeting one, and now I've met Mary. I don't have a way of redoing this, so I'm going to stop, and I'm actually just going to add Mary in. So I have met Mary. I have nothing more to say to you. Okay. So we now have a conditional system, we have a dialogue system, we've got effects, we've got color effects, 3 different types of effects, all using a very nice custom interface. We can expand our conditions very easily. We can add new conditions very easily. We can add new events that happen during a dialogue branch very easily. One of those events, you can actually make a Unity event. So for instance, the person says, let's say in the screen you've got a whole bunch of enemy, and the enemies are all around you, and you're talking to this one super powerful wizard, and the wizard says, oh, are you afraid of these enemies? I'll kill them right now. And at that point, all the enemies drop down dead. So what you can actually do is create a Unity event that's or a delegate, an event and delegate system, that all the enemies are listening for this kill command. And in the dialogue, if you create a branch event that runs that specific delegate event, then they'll all hear it. When that branch runs, they'll all hear it. So there's so many different possibilities that you can actually put together with this. I don't think there's anything else. Everything seems to be working. You could use Odin to clean up how things look a little bit better. Right now, like I said, this show extras, I like having a toggle. That could be a fold out. So that's your option. But that's it. So that's it for the end of this tutorial. Thank you for sticking around this long, if you have stuck around this long. And I'm going to be adding this to all of my other tutorials. Sorry, on all my other tutorials, I'll be adding that to check this tutorial out as the advanced tutorial. Thank you and goodbye.